welcome. My name is Simeone Scaramuzino, and I'll be holding space for you during the game, entertainment, and media session. This is such a tremendous opportunity to confront ourselves with our emotions. What is going to be of us in the metaverse? The metaverse is the largest cultural paradigm-shifting project we are all working on and co-creating. And it will have a lot to do with our identity. And this is what we are going to explore today, and so much more, with our guests. Welcome to all of you. Please join me with a round of applause. Cam Mullen from Nevermets, and Nadine Lasco, I got your last name, hopefully, from Vertex, and Francesca Rosella from Cute Circuit. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. And thank you for joining us at Senses and Sensibility, Love and Sex in the Metaverse. And we hear about the Metaverse every day. And I think one of the main questions is, why do people want to go there? And my first question was, how are people going to fall in love in there? And I was really worried about where it would go. And so I thought I should bring together a panel of people that actually live half in the metaverse and half in real life and see what would happen. And I co-founded Cute Circuit, where we create immersive wearable technology that lets you reach out and touch someone. But in the metaverse, as we know it now, there is a complete lack of physical interaction, except in some rare occasions. So we want to explore how will people fall in love, how will they meet, what will happen to them in the metaverse when feelings and emotions are involved. So I'll let Cam introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cam Mullen. I am the CEO of a VR dating app. We're the #1 metaverse dating app. The way it works is you make a profile on our mobile app with your avatar, and you'll scroll through other users. If you like each other, you'll connect, and then you can put on your VR headsets and go on a date with the person you matched with. And even if they're thousands of miles away, it doesn't matter what they look like in the physical world. You get to connect, feel like you're together, and have a meaningful experience. We launched on Valentine's Day this year, and we're growing quickly, and yet it still feels like it's the beginning. I'm really happy to be here, and look forward to this discussion.
Woohoo!
And
yes.
Nadine?
Nadine, you can go next.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Nadine Laxo. I'm here with Vertex. I'm operations manager there, and we're building the first virtual reality esports stadium to bring the excitement that you have for a football match, for example, in a stadium to esports, so that esports fans can experience matches together in a stadium. And esports is actually also what got me here in this nice panel, because esports, especially in VR, changed my life. I used VR a lot to escape my reality because I was not happy with my relationship. My job didn't offer me any perspective. And I also didn't have many friends because I just moved to the place where I was at that time. And so whenever I had the chance, I hopped into my VR headset, especially into Echo Arena. And that changed my life. More about that later.
Yeah, so we will discover more. Maybe some of you are here for the sex part of the title, but we hope that you stay for the feelings. So we're first going to go through all the different stages of a relationship and our identity in the metaverse. So we'll see how, we build ourselves, then we meet someone, go on a date, and then just progress on that path of love with this person, and then what happens when we meet them in the real life. So let's see for example, one question I had for my fellow panelists is, what does your avatar look like? Does it look more like you in real life, or is it total, complete abstraction and fantasy that you wish to live in this parallel world?
I can share a little bit myself. I have multiple avatars. I have some that I've created on Ready Player Me that look similar to my body today. I have a jalapeno chili pepper I sometimes like to embody. I have other various masculine figures that have different hairstyles that might change color. I think and that's very normal in VR. You can quickly swap between your avatars, and I think that experience lets people actually learn more about themselves. So as you try on different avatars and as you get to see how people treat you and you look in virtual mirrors and you see what it looks like, you get to see, is this me? Do I like how people treat me? Am I embodying and being the person I want to be? And I think that is like a whole new layer of control that people have, where you can potentially be your more authentic self in VR and feel more comfortable there than you do in the physical world. And that can also change day by day. Some days, you know, I might have a more masculine avatar, other times more feminine, and some people embody furries. And so, I think it just kind of enables this ability to have even multiple personalities of sorts, or role play as different characters, which is just like a whole new, totally new feeling of socializing and as you can imagine, meeting new people, you start to form connections based off of how you express yourself in the moment. So yeah, it plays a huge role, and but I have a lot of different avatars.
And you, Nadine?
Yeah, definitely the same. I think there's multiple layers to that. On one hand, depending on what situation I'm in, maybe I want to look more professional, or maybe I just want to get some attention from people. Definitely more a thing in fun apps like VR chat and all of those. I do really appreciate that I have the chance to express myself in various ways, or just experiment. Like in VR chat, you always see people running around as little Yodas, as giants, and all these things. And maybe they just want to see how could it be if I would be like that small, that tall, whatever. That's definitely great. But I definitely have a different position when it comes to esports, because there I do appreciate if the avatars are more neutral. Like in Echo Arena, for example, you have just these robots. Basically, yes, you can customize them a bit, but they are robots. No one asks you, oh, this is a very feminine body or anything. And there's actually really important, because you touch people. You need to touch them to play the game. You use that for different moments. And it would be really awkward if you just suddenly grab the butt of a woman because you have to push yourself off from there. So yeah, in that sense, for gaming, I do prefer some more neutral characters.
I tried like both to go sort of as myself. I think I'm that blonde girl there with the cat. I do have a cat in real life, and it looks exactly like that cat too. So I try to be more my real self, but then once by mistake, I spun into a spatial art gallery as a guy, and all of a sudden I had much more like interesting conversations that didn't rely to like go on a date or something. It was just like, oh, let's talk about the art. So I think that it's interesting sometimes to just change character and go as someone else. And I heard actually a really interesting podcast from the Wall Street Journal where they were interviewing someone who actually transitioned after decided to present as a woman in Second Life, for example. So the fact that they were able to transition in the virtual environment and start to express myself and find the words to express themselves to the people they loved in real life allowed them to that transition in real life. So I thought it was a really moving story. And I thought, oh, it could be really a great environment to let people sort of access a different aspect of themselves that they hadn't thought about before. So I asked this question to Nadine first, because you just have to confirm. You met someone in VR, as you just said, and then you went on a date. And so, like, Cam is sort of the provider. He lets people meet, and you say, you guys can go on a date. And then Nadine actually really didn't use your app, but sort of took advantage of the opportunity of meeting someone. And so I'm really curious to know, where did you go on your first date?
Well, I have to admit, my first date wasn't actually a date, it was a play date. Because we played Echo Arena together, and that quite a few times. And Echo Arena, not only for friendships, relationships, I met so many people there. And one of them actually turned into such a good friend that I married him this year. So you can find your husband in VR.
That's amazing. So if any of you is in need, please do use that or go play games. But I think it's interesting how you built a relationship playing a game, because I also visited Echo VR and I tried all the different worlds to prepare and do some bit of work for this panel. And I noticed that in Echo VR you have to create a team. And so I think probably this idea of building relationships through sort of teamwork and play might be more effective than just going straight on a date. What's your view on that, Cam? Because you really want to send two people on a date, so you're not organizing a team date, although that would be interesting too. So tell us.
So yeah, for sure. So users come from all metaverses on NeverMet. They'll have a VR picture, they'll have a VR chat avatar, or perhaps a Horizon Worlds avatar or something else. And so, and we've made almost 1 million matches on our app. And the dates people go on vary so much. It's all about quality time. And for some, they might play games and want to play multiplayer Beat Saber. And, but most of the time, actually, people go on free experiences, as you can imagine. Everyone can afford them. And those are often in VR chat, in Horizon Worlds, or maybe Rec Room or Alt Space. And so whether they're interested in watching a movie together and cuddling, or this term world hopping is one of my favorite types of dates, where you just kind of drop a portal and then both people can jump in and go into a different world. So that term, that idea, lets you do like 10 different dates in one night. You can start playing a haunted house horror experience together, and then you can go play ping pong, and then you can watch a movie at the end. And so it's surprising to me how much people love cuddling and watching movies. I think that's more like the behavior we see in the physical world. And but in addition, because all these worlds are made by regular people, user-generated content, there are hundreds of thousands of worlds existing today, and like endless things already available that you're able to do. So.
Yeah, I think that there is like an interesting variety, because you can understand that some places cater more to couples, and some places are more like for people that kind of enjoy a crowd. So there are, I mean, there is everything. There are clubs.
Yep.
Like I joined a club called Heist, and they sort of meet in VR, and they have like real DJs that are actually really spinning the decks in their apartment somewhere in Berlin, and then like everybody else is dancing from Tokyo to New York, and it just comes at the wrong time of the day. There is one tomorrow that is going to be 3 a.m. Lisbon time. So if you join the Discord for Heist channel, I think you can go and dance tomorrow night. And tell me how it is, because I managed to miss all of them because it's just 3 a.m. I sleep. But I think that this is like one of the, I think the next question is like, when did you discover that you were falling in love while playing this game?
Actually, quite late. I think the interesting thing about VR is that you hang out with people a lot, you talk to them a lot, you see how they move, how they act, and yes, you can't see the mimic on their face, but a lot of the gestures, how they behave, how they just move around, how much energy they radiate, and all of these little things, you get to see them in VR already, and you don't even realize when you see the person suddenly in real life how much you know about that person already. That's really interesting, just like from, interacting with them. So even without seeing the face of someone or knowing the age maybe, you get to know a person very deep. And that is not only for that relationship was very helpful, but for finding friendships in general. Because all the friends I've found in VR, like the age group is really wide, like from 20 to 60 or something is like, I found really good friends. And age didn't matter, the look didn't matter, it didn't matter where they come from, what ways, whatever. It's like, it was really just amazing people. And these friends, I took them with me when I moved to another country. And I think we were friends for 2 years. And then suddenly we realized, actually there could be more. And just because we talked so much before, we knew each other really well. And we knew, okay, could this work? Could this not work? And well, I guess it worked.
And you imagined it, like all the different aspects of this coming together and thinking one day we will meet in real life.
We got lucky on that sense. We actually met a few times in between because he came for work to Germany, and we said, okay, let's just meet up. We actually had a third person there, also from the region, from the game. We just like made little meetups from time to time, and that was really nice to like see these people for the first time and be like on the train station already. Oh, that must be them. One is very tall, one is very small. And just the way how they moved, and that's, you aren't surprised. Like when you usually meet someone on the internet and you suddenly see them, then you're like, you're a bit unsure, like, oh, is that the person I'm thinking about? And suddenly you're in VR and like, oh yeah, that must be that person, just because you know so much.
I think that it's interesting that you're talking about the avatar expressiveness, because obviously there isn't full body tracking available to everyone yet. Just people that are like geeking out in VR chat all the time. They are wearing a Vive and they have the little trackers on. But everybody else in VR right now is accessing many different worlds from their mobile phone or their computer. And one interesting discussion I was having with someone the other day was about, well, I mean, what do you do in this virtual world? In some virtual worlds, you just type, and in some others, you just voice and just like say things, and then you can hear everyone around you, and there is like a nice spatial audio. And, but then some people started saying, well, what about inclusivity? Because many of these virtual worlds actually welcome people that maybe are deaf or people that maybe are on a wheelchair, and they want to experience different things in their life. So for example, there are like people that can fly or people that can run, and they cannot really do it. So it started me thinking about what happens if we decide that all the interface has to be very slick and very simplified, and we just use voice, and then someone actually cannot talk. And I was watching that lovely movie, We Met in Virtual Reality, that has been winning lots of awards. And in the beginning, it starts, and it's like very dodecaphonic. And you're like, man, you really don't want to be in VR chat. It's a disaster. All these kids are screaming around you, right? And then all of a sudden, you start hearing these stories from the deaf community. And actually, some of them with the hand tracking, they're able to sign language and communicate with their friends in virtual reality. And then they make friendships that actually last also outside the virtual world. So I think that like this idea that our bodies, as we know them, they're always like interacting with other bodies. Like many of the studies I did is like people need to be touched more than 50 times a day, because when someone touches you, shakes your hand, or hugs you, it releases endorphins and oxytocin, so it makes you happy. So if you think about the place where there's no touch, like during the pandemic, everybody was able to experience that. One of the first thoughts I had is like, how are you actually going to make love in virtual reality? So which kind of technologies will we have to employ to make these sensations more real? And I think I'm going to ask Nadine to chat a little bit about this, because I mean, I work with haptics, so it's kind of obvious I want everybody to touch everybody else. Not now. And then, like, Nadine was telling me, oh, but you know, like, sometimes I feel phantom touch, because sometimes your brain is so like immersed into this virtual world, and then when the other avatar kind of comes closer to you and touches you, you actually feel something. So tell me what this phantom touch feels like.
Well, that's the thing. It feels quite real, right?
Feels good.
I think touching is such an important thing, and I think many here actually know how the users appreciate that if they can touch something in VR. Oftentimes when we demo something, when we try something, the first thing people go in and, oh, there's a can. I tried to touch it. I tried to throw it. I tried to manipulate it in some way. And that's such a human thing. We just need this. We want this. And in Echo Arena, it's actually quite nice because you have very detailed hands. And when you have a surface, you can see how the hand adapts to the surface. And people really enjoy that. Like, it's such a small thing. Oh, I can grab an object. I can use it. But it's a big thing in VR. And if that doesn't exist in the game or in an app, you come in and there's something you want to touch and you can't, people are really disappointed. So it just shows how important all these haptics and things for us humans are. And
yeah, no. The other thing that I was thinking about is like, you know, sometimes like the other avatar can just run through your body and it feels like, oh my God, it's like a ghost going through you, right? And so I think that like, one of the issues with the virtual worlds, as they are right now, is that sometimes if you want to have 100 people in one world, it actually creates 10 instances of that world because you have 10 people each, like in spatial. And I was reading an article where in Second Life, you actually can have 100 people all rendered in one environment, but they can do it because they have a desktop client, so it's not mobile. So I think that one of the things is that like, there is this interpenetration of avatars that, like, if you find the wall stops you, but the other avatar doesn't stop you. So I think that that would be one of the main issues to solve, especially if you are going on a date or an adventure, and then you want to really hold hands. I think that there should be, like, I'm sure someone is doing it here, in which you are creating really good occlusion algorithms so that people can actually feel a real, nice, decisive touch.
Yeah, I would just add one simple framework for thinking about this is, humans have 5 senses. And sight is getting really, really good in VR. Every year it gets better. Sound is already very, very good and spatial, so you feel like you're in the same room as someone. Touch and haptics are progressing very quickly with these new tech. And smell and taste are the 2 that are kind of further out on the horizon, I'd say. And I think that then you can ask the question, if you couldn't smell or taste, would you still be able to have a meaningful relationship or an intimate relationship with someone? And maybe if you had COVID, you lost those senses for a little bit, and I bet you might feel like it didn't have too big an impact on your relationships, even though it does matter with immersion. So I'm clearly very optimistic and believe in the future of meaningful relationships in the metaverse because of it.
I have a question for you, Cam, actually.
Yeah.
Because you gave me this slide title, The Face Reveal.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm more interested in is okay, we have all these avatars. You have multiple. You have your gaming one and your business one. I have my cute ones with cats and my dude that I like. But I think, does it stack up when you meet the person you fell in love in real life?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about this user journey we see. So users will start making profiles on NeverMet with their avatars. No human faces are allowed on our platform. And they'll match and they'll go on dates or play dates with people, playing games, hanging out. And if they start dating, then there's about maybe 50% of them that might actually do a face reveal. And that's the moment where you say to this other partner, I want to see what you look like, or I want to show you what I look like, or something. And then a picture is shared, or a video chat. And that is, as you can imagine, an extremely anxiety-driving moment. People say, but you're going to think I'm ugly, or you're not going to like my, my insecurities are coming out. I'm scared of them. And so, that's a big moment in this digital relationship. And as you can imagine, after that, meeting up is the next big step, maybe going to Comic-Con or going to some conference or visiting someone, and then maybe moving in. And we've had plenty of relationships living together IRL from NeverMet. I think what's important to note, though, is most couples that meet and fall in love in VR want to meet up in the physical world. There are a couple cases, there's some users we have in the Army that travel around so much and prefer a digital first relationship. And there are people that might have other diseases that don't let them leave the house and they prefer that. Or for whatever reason, there are segments of the market that prefer that. But for the vast majority, they do want to meet up. So it's a way to have this personality first connection where you get to meet someone soul to soul, spirit to spirit, expressing yourself as comfortably as you want, as authentically as you can. And I can't recommend it enough. I think that it teaches you a lot about your values in relationships, what you're attracted to. You learn about yourself and how you like to express yourself. So give it a shot. You can, of course, if you have a headset, you can try VR Chat and Horizon are the places. And if you're feeling lonely, download NeverMet and you can make some friends.
And so how was?
I think you brought up
your
an
big
important point. We are all happy because we can just meet here. It's quite easy for us, right? We are able to meet in reality, but that's not the case for everyone. Corona showed us that. What happens if we can't meet up? And I think that is a place where VR can play a really big role to not replace reality, but to give people a chance to meet up if they don't have the money to travel, if they have maybe a sickness, or if there's a pandemic or whatever, exactly. And I think that's something we should focus on. How can we connect people with VR that otherwise wouldn't have the chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really positive message, because sometimes when people think about new technology and it's the metaverse is invading our lives and it's going to make it impossible to have real human connectedness. And then we have all these examples in which actually it becomes all of a sudden a very inclusive environment. And so I think that what we want to leave you with is a message of positivity. You can find friends, you can find love, and then you can have your digital, virtual, and real reality just merge into one, and hopefully in a seamless experience very soon. And I think it's just a message of hope and love. And we would like to actually hear from you and have you ask us questions. And thank you for following our discussion today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cam.
Did you have any reports for like safety issues perhaps?
Sure. So first off, safety is our top priority. We're 18 plus. We're the only metaverse dating app with an actual government ID scan to confirm the age of the user, and so super important to us. And we have safeguards in place. Every user has to be manually approved to actually get in the app. There's a wait list, and we have moderators reviewing. We have report systems, block systems. We're scanning for any sort of misuse or troublemakers. That's most important because safety and quality makes a great community, makes a great product, and it's all aligned. I think that what's interesting is there also, bigger picture, there are these dates that go on in different worlds, and there are dates that go in VR chat, which has its own policies. There are dates that go on in Horizon that has their own policies, Rec Room, and et cetera. And so much of my experience with NeverMed is we help people form connections, and yet the quality time and the policies of the actual experience that they share together, it's on a case-by-case basis. But generally, all these major players are unified in trying to make safe, meaningful, long-lasting, impactful experiences. And so most of them, of course, have respectable and adapting and improving the guidelines.
I think if you want to go on a date in VR, and I think I might suggest to try with something like Spatial or maybe like even Second Life that somehow has survived such a long time because I think it's very civilized.
I don't know about the spatial date.
Yeah, I think because Spatial feels like people want to go to like an art gallery and visit an exhibit, and I think it's like an interesting pursuit because I mean,
that's a good point.
5 seconds after I got inside VR chat, that I was like harassed by like some really annoying person. And I even read a little pop-up that said that VR chat had disabled some libraries because people were abusing their sex toy connectivity. And I'm like, okay, it seems like there are some environments that cater more to a certain type of user.
Good point.
Towards a different one. So some environments are more for introverts, some are for extroverts. Like if you go in Roblox, I don't think anyone in this room should go into Roblox because it's full of 5-year-olds running around that drive you crazy. And so I think it's just like, I mean, it's funny. And I was in there the other day because Paris Hilton was doing something in there. But I think that, I mean, besides those product launches, there are other platforms where I think you can get a bit more of an emotional connection happening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please.
Yeah, I think, I mean, definitely everybody should have a hug shirt. But yeah, I think that, I mean, the thing that is interesting is that definitely, I mean, talking about touch, and as Cam was saying earlier, like, all our senses, you can trick your sight because you can see things that don't exist in VR. You can sort of trick your ears because you hear sounds that are not there. But the only sense that makes you feel like you really exist is touch. Because if I touch my nose, that's a proprioception. And you know that you exist and you're here in this moment. So I think touch should be one of the things that gets implemented first in a virtual environment because, I mean, it makes you feel that the whole experience is more immersive and more realistic. Of course, it kind of takes a while because basically every virtual world would have to implement an API that complies with it. One of the ways we do it right now in virtual reality, we just like steal all the audio and like positioning and just recreate it into the garment. So it feels really like nice. I play Beat Saber and other games wearing one of my garments. So that should be going out there and just try it. It's fun.
Well.
Any other questions? We have a question for you, actually. Has any one of you gone on a virtual reality date and fallen in love in virtual reality? Raise your hands if you have. And raise your hands if you think you will never do it.
Raise your hand if you've used a dating app at all.
And was it successful?
Uh-huh.
Amazing. Oh, congratulations.
So yeah, I mean, nowadays 50% of couples are meeting on dating apps. It's the new normal of how people meet. And I think one way I think about it is like in the past, we would meet people in the physical world and we'd go on dates in the physical world. And today we're meeting people in the digital world and we're going on dates in the physical world. But in the future, we're gonna meet people in the digital world and then go on more dates in the digital world as well, in virtual reality and in the metaverse. And so that's kind of a paradigm shift that I see us moving towards. And I think it's good for the world because you get to connect deeply on the things we mentioned, personality, and it's a level playing field no matter where you live or what you look like physically. And so the dating app culture is so superficial. People are making snap judgments in seconds to like or dislike. And if you're not, it doesn't work for actually the majority of the users that use them. And so I think it's a big deal what we're talking about here. And I think that in the future we're going to look back and can't even believe that there was like a time this didn't exist. So.
I mean, and eventually you will meet in real life too. And then see what happens, and you get married like she did or like some of you guys did. Yeah.
I also just adding to your point, I think also the other way around would work, like meeting in the physical world first and then going on virtual dates, which also happened to me as well. So, and I'm engaged, so.
Yeah, not
amazing.
not only dates, but also keep in mind it's an amazing tool to just keep in contact with your friends, with your family. Like how many people live far away from their family, and it's really fun to just hop into them, play a bit of mini golf or anything regularly. So definitely also for that a good tool.
And also I think like for like intergenerational connectedness, like I was telling my mother about all these virtual worlds I was visiting and what I was doing in there, like dancing salsa with this hot guy. And my husband was horrified. And he's like, what's he doing to you? And I'm like, oh, he can really dance. And so my husband was very offended. But my mom was like, oh, this sounds really like fun. I would love to go dance salsa. And the dude looks hot. And so I think that, I mean, there is an intergenerational thing in which, like, there are the 5-year-olds online, but then there are also people that are maybe in their 70s, and they would really enjoy going on a date because it makes them connect and do something different that they don't do in their daily life. So I think there is a message of hope, and I think we are running out of time, maybe?
Yeah, we are, but I'm
bit,
enjoying the
but-
conversation, so...
We're just going to keep going forever. So if you have one last question.
One last question.
I can share a couple thoughts on this from my experiences and what I've seen. I think that I know stories of people who have gone through heartbreak or had different issues in their personal life, whether it's a death or whether it's some other crisis, and they lean on their social VR community to actually provide support and help. And so I know how it's not like, in many ways, people can feel sometimes more comfortable sharing sensitive topics when they are their avatar in that self than they might like at a coffee shop nearby with fear of maybe, I don't know, burdening someone else. So, I mean, I think it's a case-by-case basis, of course, if I understand your question correctly.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there is like always a bit like of maybe a misunderstanding. I mean, they happen with people definitely in real life, and definitely they can happen like if you're texting with someone or if you are chatting remotely with someone. So I think it's like sort of like the problem-solving issues are very similar, but then I think there are maybe also aspects of like pre-visualization and sort of like running through your emotions before actually externalizing them that maybe helps a bit in conflict resolution. It's like, you marry someone and not every marriage is perfect every single day, but people that actually succeed in having like happy marriages is because they actually work at it. So I think every relationship needs a little bit of work, be it a friendship or an absolute amazing love story. And so it's just a little bit of
Yeah.
love, I think.
I think a lot of
And
people
work.
also think just because you're in VR, you don't notice as much as about the other person, like how are they feeling, what are they thinking at the moment. But if you know them a bit, you immediately notice a change. And if people are in a bad mood or they might be angry at you, what they do immediately is that they get usually calmer, they talk less, they react less. So
Body language.
yes, and you notice these things immediately because that's all you have there. And it actually is quite nice because people, when they notice that, they're just like, hey, what's up? It's so easy to just engage then and say, hey, what's going on with you? Because you notice it. And in real life, we have more the tendency to maybe hide such issues. You compensate with other things, and in VR, you can't do that. So there's a downside, but there's also an upside to it. It trains you to be more attentive to others and to changes.
VR can really bring us to be more empathetic and compassionate. And on this beautiful note, I'd like really to join me in a round of applause for this, again, sensational trio.
Thank you.
And before you go, there's an event wrap-up and Best in Show announcement at 4:25 p.m. On main stage. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you.